Hi Sweet Cakers, Andrea Sullivan here of Andrea Sweetcakes. Drum roll, it's Andrea Sweet Tips time! This week's episode, I've had many requests on how to use, that's right, the cake Cricut. So I'm going to do my best to show you how I personally use the cake Cricut. I do not know all the ins and outs on how to use this whole machine in its entirety, but I'll definitely show you what I do to get my letters out of it. So just let me share a couple of tips and tricks on how to use this. Let's get started. I just want to cover a couple of little things before we start using the machine. So I know that there are several models out there. I've personally got the Cake Cricut Mini, but I do believe that there is a larger model out there, but I think this one works just fine. And the benefits of working with a Cricut machine is that you don't have to buy just the Cake Cricut cartridges. You can actually, if you're a scrapbooker, I also buy, they're compatible, with just the regular scrapbooking machine as well. So you're not limited to just the Cake Cricut cartridges, which is absolutely awesome. So I go on eBay and I search and I search and I search. This one is my most favorite. I'm sure most people recognize it. It's the cupcake cartridge. I use this actually quite a lot. I'll just hold up some other ones that I have. This here's for the regular just the regular Cricut. It's Cindy Lou. It's really cute. I've used it a couple times. And this was on my Alice in Wonderland cake I recently did. This one's called Ashland's Alphabet, and this is also for a regular Cricut. I love, love, love. This one gives me like 5 different fonts. It's amazing. So now that I've reviewed just a couple cartridges and whatever, let's get into actually cutting some letters. You're going to require your Cake Cricut Mini, your Cricut mat, shortening and a pastry brush, cartridge of your choice, a small palette knife to loosen the letters, rolling pin, gum paste, water and a brush, cornstarch, and a board to assemble our letters onto. Before I roll out my gum paste, I like to set my Cricut up so that way I don't roll out my gum paste and then it's starting to dry out while I'm fiddling with the Cricut. I like to have it ready to go, so as soon as I'm ready to pop the gum paste in, it's ready with me. So let's just cover how we open this up. It's beautiful. I'm going to use the cupcake cartridge. So we're just going to slide the cartridge into the slot here. And they have this little protective cover, I guess, is to keep cornstarch and stuff out. Slide that over. It comes with a special mat. With every cartridge, it'll have its own unique mat. You just lay it over the buttons. Place your little protective barrier back over. This protects the buttons from cornstarch and shortening and everything from gumming up the controls. And just power on. Okay, it's going to make all its funny little sounds. So now it's ready to go. I'm just going to pop it off to the side while I roll out my gum paste. I'm going to start by rolling out the gum paste for the backdrop of the letter. Every letter comes in 2 pieces, I guess. Like you actually have the letter and then you have the backdrop behind it. We're going to cut out the backdrop first. I have gum paste. I have used a very stiff brand of fondant in the Cricut as well and had no problems with the fondant working for me. You definitely want to use a stiffer brand. The softer your product is, the more trouble you definitely will experience. So my backdrop color is going to be pink. My font is going to be in blue. Start by warming up your gum paste. It's always a good idea. Okay, put some cornstarch down. So I am happy with this thickness. That's perfect. You're going to require your Cricut mat, your shortening, and a pastry brush. You don't have to use pastry brush. You definitely can use your fingertips. And we're just going to lightly spread some shortening over the mat. And the shortening is going to help the gum paste adhere to the mat and should help keep the letters in place as the machine cuts them out. Now, I always like to get my hands involved. Just going to rub over the mat, make sure I don't have too much shortening. If you have too much shortening, then your letters will start to slide around on the mat. So you just want to make sure that you have enough that it's going to keep the gum paste firmly to the mat, but not so much that it's going to want to slide around like it's on like ice or something. Okay. Next, we take our gum paste. We're going to center it over the mat. Now, I don't know if everybody does this, but this is definitely one of the things that I do, and maybe this is what makes my Cricut letters turn out so fabulous. I don't know. But I will further roll the gum paste onto the mat, really making sure that that gum paste is really sticking to the mat. So we're just going to trim it now. You'll notice there's two guides on the side. You want to trim your gum paste away. This is where the rollers of the Cricut is going to roll. There we go. You could even trim this. So I think my two biggest tips would be not too much shortening and to pass over several more times with your rolling pin after you've attached it to the mat. And then those tricks may be what I do that just makes my letters come out so good. I don't know. But this is ready to be loaded into our machine. Let's pull our Cricut into the shot here. Now the only knobs that I touch on this machine is my size knob right here. Boop, boop, boop. And if you look up at the display, you'll see the numbers are going up and down as I twist this knob. For the video, I think I'm going to go with 1.5 inches. We don't need to go crazy big. So I'm just setting it here at 1.5. So just take your mat, slide it up to the rollers, and then hit load mat. To further insert, you just push this down button like that, and then push down so that you make the needle go more in the center of the gum paste. Actually, I'm just going to take this back a little bit. I don't want to waste my gum paste. Now we're going to need our chart that comes with our cartridge. And there's a legend at the top. So we want to do the backdrop, which is the gray. So with shift on, I'm going to spell out sweet cakes. So S. I like to do one test letter first. So I pressed S and now cut. Ah, I did it wrong. I did it wrong because I forgot to press girl font. See, even I make mistakes. Girl font, shift lock, S, cut. See, it's a good thing I didn't write all sweet cakes. There we go. So we got the background to our S. So now, W-E-E-T, cut. You notice my letters aren't budging anywhere, and that's probably because I further rolled the gum paste onto the mat. So now we're going to try to get in cakes. C, A, K, E, S. Cut. Oh, I wonder if I'm going to get the S. Oh, I'm not gonna. Oh, you're such a good machine. You're so smart. Sometimes it does that, sometimes it doesn't. I like it when it does. All right, so now we're going to press unload mat. Right here, unload mat. It's right beside the load mat button. So there we have the backdrop to sweet cakes. I just want you guys to observe that you can see that I do experience a small amount of snagging, that I am not impervious to it. It does happen to the best of us. We're ready to remove the letters off of the mat. How I remove my scraps is I'll just come in with my palette my palette knife. Just gonna trim right up to the edge of the first cut. And boop, 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 boop. Sound effects are required. Booyah. Make sure you crumple that back up. Pop it in your bag for next time. Now we're going to want to remove these. So I like to use a nice thin palette knife because it's so thin it just gets right up under those letters like that. See how they're nice? They were held in place really well with that shortening. Look at this, watch. Oh, they're not going anywhere. That's what the shortening does. And to tell you the truth, you can hear that texture. That's because I've used this mat so many times and the scribing needle actually touches the mat. And I think that actually helps to hold the letters in place as well. Is that little bit of texture. Gives something for the fondant or gum paste to sink down into, grip onto. If you have a lot of shortening on the back side, it might be a good idea that you lay them down dry side up so that they don't further stick to the board. Hey, that's just a tip. You don't have to. I sometimes will take cornstarch, just kind of brush it on the back, maybe kind of take away some of that shortening a little bit. Hey, if you want to. Especially if you're going to adhere them to toothpicks or lolly sticks or dowels or something. The shortening will definitely get in the way. So now we're ready to cut out the actual font. So we're going to place this off to the side. I have my glue bum paste. My glue bum paste. That didn't come out right. My blue gum paste. Let's try that again. All right. A little bit of cornstarch. We're going to roll that out. We're going to try to match the thickness, maybe even thinner. We don't need these letters to be too bulky. Hey. Don't stick to my rolling pin. Oh, I find I need to stand up when I roll out stiff gum paste. Takes grunting power. This is ready to be stuck to the mat now. So let's get our mat in the frame. A little bit of ice, or not ice. Where's my brain today? A little bit of shortening. Remember, get in there, feel with your hands, make sure it's not too greasy. Perfect. Get our gum paste. Lay it on. Smooth with your hand. I'm actually gonna readjust that. There we go. I had a little bit of shortening and I just put some cornstarch, rubbed it, and it took away that greasy stain. But I will further roll the gum paste onto the mat, really making sure that that gum paste is really sticking to the mat. So with the palette knife, we're going to just trim away the excess. These will get underneath your wheels and gum up the track. You don't want that. This is ready for the Cricut. Let's get that in frame. Okay, our gum paste is ready to be loaded. Load mat. Press down, further load. I like to go to the center of the page. Okay, so you do not need to adjust the size to make the letters smaller to go inside the backdrop that we've already cut out. The cartridge already takes that into account. That was a mistake that I had made the first time I used the machine. I thought I actually had to drop it myself. So there's a sweet tip for you. You do not have to further adjust the size. The cartridge already does that for you. So I took off shift lock because now we just want the letter. Make sure it's still on girl font. I'm going to do a test letter, S, and cut. There we go. Let's do W-E-E-T, cut. All right, let's finish this with a cake. The plural, cakes, cut. Fantastic. Wizard. That's so wizard. Okay, so there we have our font to be laid into our backdrop. And again, I really think that it's my rolling it further out onto the mat that really keeps those letters in place. Okay, so let's remove these from the mat. Our letters are already cut out, and now we're ready to assemble our font onto our backdrop. So let's use the palette knife, and we're just going to trim away our excess. When you're doing the font, you have to be a little more delicate because it's easy to accidentally scoop up some letters while you're removing away your excess, crumple them up, and then you're left with, you know, you're missing an E or something. That sucks to have to like go through all of that just to cut out an E. Okay, so let's pop that into the bag. Sweet cake. I'm just going to remove everything off the board quickly. To be a little more delicate, they're much more fragile. You need to remove these center parts. There's really not a lot to say about this. Just be careful. Don't misshapen your letters too much. The backdrop does offer somewhat of a guideline at how your letters should lie, but you don't want to bend them too much. And finally the S. Boop. Hey, that's a shortening. There we go. Time to assemble our font onto our backdrop. So let's grab some water. I'm going to start with S. And grab one of the backdrops. Make sure that you place the S in the right direction. Yeah, that's backwards, I believe, or upside down. So let's flip that around. Yay, that's the right way. Okay. So I'm going to put a little bit of water. A little bit of water. The shortening can maybe cause your letters not to stick together if you have too much shortening on there. So like I said earlier, a little bit of cornstarch on the back of your letter and just give it a nice little buff, and that should remove most of the shortening, which should then make it easier to stick your letters together. And you just want to center the font onto the backdrop as best as you can. So there's S, W. I like to put the water on the back of the letter opposed to like trying to like outline it on the backdrop, because I could easily go outside of the font and I don't want water stains all over my backdrop. There we go. W. have those closer to me?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I just found it out. This is what the shot looks like.
A little bit of water. Oh. Oh, I got a little bit of water, so I'm just going to take some cornstarch. And I was going to try to, the cornstarch will absorb the water very, very quickly. And then with a clean brush, you just brush it away. And chances are, hopefully, you won't be left with a nasty watermark because the cornstarch absorbed the water so quickly. Yep, there we go. Perfect. Next D. T. Oh, these colors are so awesome. I want some cotton candy. My husband calls me Cotton Candy Princess. I love it. All right, halfway there. C for cakes. We all love cakes, don't we? Yay! Unless you have to stay up all night making them like I do. Oops. Okay. Oh man, we're so close to being done here. I'm so excited. I've never seen sweet cake spelt out like this. I should have done YouTube. Dang. A little bit of water. Rub it away with some cornstarch. Boop, boop, boop. Okay. E. Oh, let's make sure you guys can read this so you know what I'm spelling. E. I don't know why I have to keep saying the letter as I do it. I'm sure you can all read. And finally, our S to finish off sweet cakes. I just want to make sure, nope, I always put it on upside down. Always, always, always. Okay. I love a palette knife, how it just gets right up underneath the letter and I don't have to warp it with my finger. Is it bad that I already forgot what way to put that S on? Oh man. Okay, there we go. It all fell into place for me. I got some water, so we're just gonna dab that away. There we go. Oh, I was a little slow on that one. That's okay. Well, there we have it. Sweet cakes. Okay, so now that we have our letters all assembled, I'm actually going to stick them on the side of a dummy cake just so I can show you the arrangement and how fun you can get with the letters. So let me go grab that dummy. Before I start arranging the letters onto the side of my cake, I actually like to play around with the letters on the board first and get a feel for the movement and what directions I'd like the letters to be facing. I'm all about fun, whimsical style, so they can't be straight. That's boring. They could be all over the place, like these letters been out all night drinking or something. Like this. That's fun. And then cakes, C, A, K, E, S. Aw, did you see that? That sucked. All right. So just play around with them, get a feel for what you like. I don't want to waste any more time, so whatever. And then if you like what you see, then I'll even grab my iPod or my iPhone and I'll take a quick little snap so that I can refer back to that picture if I've forgotten, if I picked up a letter and I forgot, oh, was it tilted to the left? Was it tilted to the right? So I'll refer back to that picture. Let's begin to put the letters onto the side of the cake. Does everybody recognize this cake from last week's video? My tied bow tutorial. Check that out off in the sidebar if you haven't seen it already. So I'm just going to turn this cake around and I'm just going to use the back just to demonstrate how I'd like to arrange my letters. So with a little bit of water, you can use piping jelly, royal icing, whatever suits your fancy. And we're just going to start to play. I like to limit the water more to the center of the letter so I have a little bit of play. If I'm not absolutely happy where I place it, I can still move it around, not worrying that water is going to leave a nasty stain because I've limited to the center of the letter.
Okay.
But that's what you get when I do it for the benefit of the camera. But I could still play with it further if I wanted to. But I'm sure you guys all get the gist. It's just that easy. Just a little bit of water, piping gel, royal icing. And you just pop them on there. You play with them until you're absolutely happy. But that's it. That concludes another episode of Andrea's Sweet Tips. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Please feel free to comment in the sidebar what you'd like to see from me next. Check me out on Facebook at Andrea's Sweet Cakes at Facebook, whatever. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will be doing these videos every week. And
Share the link.
yes, please share my link. Please, please, please. It would be so awesome if you share all of my tutorials with other cake decorators in need of some simple techniques. And thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye.